What's up, internet? Welcome back. This is Inter22. There's this little handheld game system called Playdate, and it's kind of interesting. It's being created by Panic, who's known for publishing games like Firewatch and the Untitled Goose Game. And of course, this is coming from a company who does not make hardware, so this is kind of interesting. But before I get into it, let me just remind you guys that if you like discussion videos much like this one, go ahead and subscribe. So this thing called Playdate is an interesting little console. It's gonna be black and white, has a crank on the side, not to power it up like I initially thought, but it's actually going to be part of the gameplay. You use this little crank for different purposes in different games, so I'm interested in seeing what it will entail. This little console is going to be designed by a group called Teenage Engineering, who are known for their portable synthesizers. They're from Sweden, and honestly, if you look at the way that this product is designed, it has a very Swedish modern design. Now, if you look at the specs and what's going to be packed in there, there's going to be a modern ARM compatible processor from ST Microelectronics. There's going to be Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 2 gigabytes of flash storage, 16 megabytes of RAM, and a rechargeable battery. Let me just stress that this is not a Game Boy clone. Although it kind of looks like it could be one, it is 100% not. And one thing I found pretty interesting is that 8,000 developers have already registered interest in making content for this device. So that's actually a lot. And they actually have an interesting way of releasing games. Instead of selling you games on a game-by-game basis, instead your little device is going to be updated with a game every Monday for 12 weeks. I believe you're going to pay for the pass, and then every 12 weeks you just get a game. I presume that you will keep the game that you want. I do know that they haven't specified whether you will or not, but they have stated that they've discussed the concept of only one game on the system at a time, and it kind of forces everyone to have the same game on their system. But they've also specified that in discussion of this, they've realized that people may not like that. So it's still up in the air, and they're still discussing that. I'm kind of interested. I kind of like both approaches, but I still would prefer that if I like a game that I would be able to keep it. They have not talked about battery life at the moment. I would presume that the battery life must be good because of the screen. You see, they've kind of specified that they could have gone with an OLED screen, which would be, darker blacks than LED screens and would definitely look, I guess, much better in color. But instead they went with an interesting one. They went with a sharp memory LCD. This screen is black and white. It's very crisp and clear, has a high pixel density, and it looks great in the sunlight. And I'm pretty sure that they went with this because it is great on battery life. Now, this is not your e-ink like you're probably used to, so it should look a little bit better than e-ink. E-ink is kind of cool, but it has a very slow refresh rates, and the pixel density isn't that great. This device is going to go for $149. I'm not 100% sure if that price is 100% worth it, but I gotta say, this device ends up being interesting, ends up being very easy to just play good games. Like, if there's good games on it, then maybe this might be worth having in your pocket. This is not going to be a device that's going to replace your Switch. This is not going to be a device to replace the games on your phone, but this is going to be a nice little fun thing that you kind of carry around, and you kind of anticipate all the new games every Monday, which I actually think that's a good idea. I'm actually really happy that they are taking a completely different approach. They are not trying to replace anything. They're just kind of trying to become an additive. Whether we need an additive or not doesn't really matter, because this device is okay with being niche. It's okay with not being for everybody. Although it has the potential to actually be interested by the mainstream, I don't think it has to. One interesting thing is that a game that they're showing a lot of is called Crankin's Time Travel Adventure, and this is a game that's going to use the crank. How it works is you control time with the crank. You kind of crank the character forward, or you crank him backwards, and as the character moves in time, his body kind of goes up and down. He kind of hangs on a pole, which kind of separates his limbs in a way so that things could be dodged. Yeah, so there's like a bird or something that's going towards him. You have to dodge him by going through time in order to go into a position where it's not going to hit him. Although, if it's really going through time, why is the bird still continuing forward? I don't know. It's an interesting game. It looks really fun. And apparently this game is actually made by the man behind Katamari Damacy, whose name is, sorry if I butcher it, Kaita Takahashi, there you go. So yeah, he's just one of the many developers that want to mess around and make some interesting games for this. Now this thing is set to release in 2020, so I have to ask you guys, do you guys have any opinions about this? Do you guys actually want this, or do you guys have no interest in this? Do you think what they're doing is good? Do you think there's any problems with it? Please let me know. If you guys were to release a system like this and you were a software company, what would you do? How would you go about it? And let me know down below and get this discussion started, because this little device is very interesting and very different. Let me know down below. And before I go, let me just remind you guys that if you like discussion videos much like this one, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll be back with more.